The 10th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Andrea McMaster.
Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Consider This. I'm Andrea McMaster. We're glad that you could be with us today. Well, this week we commemorate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And today, Nebraska is the home to people who speak more than 67 languages. The largest group of Sudanese refugees live in our state. About 9,000 live in the city of Omaha. Adapting to our culture comes with a lot of challenges, and to give us an idea of what some of these refugees are going through is Dr. David Shand, an associate professor with international studies at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And Dr. Shand, before I allow you to comment here, I want to just share with folks who you are and a little bit about you. Currently teaching at the University of Nebraska at Omaha as an associate professor, and prior to that served an executive director of the South Sudan Institute of Peace and Development in South Sudan. Shand was born in southern Sudan and participated in the Sudanese peace talks in the 1990s. And it has been said that there is no scholar in the Midwest who is more knowledgeable of Sudanese affairs than you are, Dr. Shand. So we're so honored to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. You left one thing out. I was also a diplomat. I was an ambassador in the Sudan.
Okay.
But I left the job because of the current situation in the country. I was the one in charge for peace and human rights. Because of my disagreement with the government, I left the position. I rather decided that I'd rather be with my people. It's indeed a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's good to have you.
Yeah.
And just having a conversation here before the show got going, we were talking about what does cultural diversity mean? We hear about that a lot, especially this time of year with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And what does multiculturalism mean?
Okay. I think this week is a great week for not only for the state of Nebraska, but for the United States, because what Dr. King did, I think he has changed the America, the old America to new America, and all of us should cherish that and should remember him. When we're talking about multiculturalism, I think it's coming together of diverse groups, different people, working together for a common cause or for a common goal, tolerating one another and appreciating each other different. So I think when we talk about multiculturalism, it's the composition in which this country is made. America is a multicultural society. You find Americans of different backgrounds everywhere. We are newcomers here. They call us the new Americans because we just came less than a decade to this country. So I think when we talk about multiculturalism, it's coming together of different groups of people living together, tolerating each other, and working for the common good of all.
When you hear a lot about a lot of different organizations or big corporations, they often have a position like the director of multicultural affairs, work that they're doing in hopes to bridge some of the gaps in misunderstandings. Do you think that's still so critical today?
Yes, I think that is very critical because we have come a long way and we still have a long way to go. I think when we talk about the director of multiculturalism, is to ensure that that position is part of human resource, to ensure that hiring, there is equity in hiring, that people of different backgrounds should be represented in the company or an institution. That will make an institution become stronger and become reflective of the composition of that society and where it works. And I think there is a need for that, particularly not in the position of multiculturalism alone, but also in the areas such as human resources. Human resources are very critical to become conscious and to become aware of the multicultural diversity in this country.
Have you been back to Sudan recently?
No, I have not been yet to Sudan, but I'm longing to go. I will have to go through East Africa, and it costs a lot to
right.
travel.
And I'm sure you are eager to go back. Can you give us a picture of what Sudan is like today?
Sudan is still at war. I am very much concerned about what is happening in Darfur, and I'm very much concerned about what is going on in South Sudan. But I think, let me talk about the South. I think the problem in the South has been overshadowed by what is happening in Darfur. I think the world has focused a lot on Darfur, whereas leaving the South behind. And I think the South is the cockpit of Sudan problem, because that's the place that the war has been fought for more than 5 decades. It started in 1955 to 1972, from 1983 to up to 2005, and it's still going on. So when the future of the Sudan is bleak, I do not think that Sudan is going to be one country. There might be 2 or even 3 Sudans, because genocide has been committed. When such a thing happens, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and other heinous crimes against humanity have been committed not only in Darfur but also in Southern Sudan as well as Eastern Sudan. So I think the peace that has been signed 2 years ago in 2005 with the help of international sponsors, UK, the US, Italy, and Norway, is not working because the government is not very serious in implementing it. Secondly, I blame those from the South also because they are not serious. They have not united themselves. Instead of uniting those who might not have been participating in the peace process to come and say, hey, look, this is all for us, because other peace processes were signed before, but they were not implemented. But they try to take the matter to be like their own property. That's what makes the peace fail now in the South. So the peace is there, but it is not being implemented. Concerning the question of Darfur, the world has the world focus on it. They talk too much about it. Many resolutions have been passed about Darfur, but there has not been any action. Still, genocide, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity as well as war crime are still being committed. What is happening in Darfur is what exactly happened in South Sudan, but the world kept quiet about it. We don't know why. And this is the question we're asking ourselves. What have the people of Southern Sudan done to the world?
And now there's obviously a lot of publicity, and we're becoming more aware.
Yes.
Probably just getting just a very small insight to really what's going on.
For example, the war in Darfur did not start in 2003, but it escalated in 2003, and as a result, between 800,000 to 1 million people have died, and more than 2.5 million people have been internally displaced, and hundreds of thousands have been forced to flee to Chad. Whereas in South Sudan, more than 2.7 million people have been genocide, and over 6 million have been internally displaced, and hundreds of thousands have been forced to leave refugees camp, overcrowded refugees camp in East African countries, and many have been resettled throughout the world, including the United States. And I should say that the US and Canada and Australia have taken in a lot of Sudanese. There are approximately over 10,000 Sudanese refugees in Australia. The US has the greatest number, and Canada. And the Europeans have not done much in Southern Sudan. We don't know why.
Does it surprise you that Nebraska, a state in the heartland, has so many of the refugees that left the African refugee camps and came to our state? About 9,000 in the city of Omaha.
Yes, it doesn't surprise me at all, because, you know, I came here in 1999 when they were starting coming. Many of them are secondary migrants, but they have not been recorded as secondary migrants, because when they came, some of them went to the West Coast, they went to other Midwestern states, they went to the East Coast, and then they came here. But because some of their relatives were here and there were jobs here, then they decided to come and follow up. And because they want to maintain a community, that's how the number increased. I think in the nation we have the largest number of Sudanese refugees in the state of Nebraska, between 10 to 15,000 of them. When you add the Somali, maybe about 5 of them, number will be about 20,000 refugees from Sudan and Somalia here or more. And now, because of the situation in Darfur, we should anticipate more refugees coming here. Also in Burundi, there's a likelihood that some of them may wind up here in Nebraska. So the Nebraska of today will not be the Nebraska of yesterday.
It isn't. And give us an idea of what these refugees are facing when they come here. What is it like for them? It has to be extremely overwhelming, to say the least. But what do they go through? I know they're facing language barriers, cultural barriers. What is it like for them?
I think you hit them on the nail. The first problem they're facing here is language barrier. They cannot communicate. Many of them do not speak English. When they do, they can't pronounce it the way the American pronounce it here. That also presents a barrier. And some of them are highly educated, professional like myself and others. Within our community, you can find engineers, you find ergonomists, you find veterinarians, you find pharmacologists. You find them, but they are not working because of the language. We study, some of them study in Arabic, some of them study with small English, and that presents a problem for them. The other one is cultural shock. They have a cultural shock here, even if they speak the language. They don't know the idioms here, cultural idioms and others. And I think many people don't want it to interact with them to know who are they, who are the people who are here, who are their new neighbors. I think they should be able to go out to reach to the Sudanese as well as other refugees. So there is lack of integration of these newcomers. And
I want you to talk a little bit about that. What can we do as a community? What can we do as a state to help some of the Sudanese integrate into our community? And one thing that you've pointed out before is that physicians working there are physicians from Sudanese working in packing plants, and people with MBAs and law degrees who have no jobs.
We have engineers who have no jobs.
Yeah.
And I think this is, if you want to integrate them, we have to, the state government, as well as other state agencies, NGOs agencies, would have to come and meet with the Sudanese community leaders and try to find out who are qualified that can be retrained and be integrated into the job market. Right now, many of them feel that they are lost, feel that they are isolated, feel that they are not wanted because they have no jobs and they wanted to work, and therefore that presents a problem. So what can be done here is that we have to reach out. The society would have to reach out to these Sudanese to find out what do they want, where do they live, what kind of lifestyle they have. A lot of them want to do business, but they have no capital. They want to be on their own. So it is up to the society to do what it has done with other immigrants, whether they came here as immigrants from Europe or from Southeast Asia or from Latin America or from other parts of the world. How we deal with those who came before the Sudanese, we should use those examples and use those models that we deal with those individuals who did not speak the language similarly to the Sudanese and Somali situation. I think that would help understand it. And I think when you talk about diversity, I think this is how we can make diversity work in the state of Nebraska.
Well, I just want to share a personal story. I've been able to have the opportunity to attend a Sudanese church in Lincoln, and I also had the opportunity to go over to have some lunch with some Sudanese families. And actually, it was several Sudanese families living in one apartment, about 5 families living in one apartment because they don't have money. They were sharing as many resources as possible because of just the income that was coming in at that time, and they were all trying to go to the university to learn the language for one, but also to get degrees so that they could get jobs in this area. But their hospitality really struck me. They wanted to give as much as possible to me while I was there. They wanted to share a great famous meal with us. It was a huge feast. And I know that's something about their culture, just very, very hospitable people.
Well, that is the nature of the Sudanese. It is like that because we believe that people should be open to others and people should be hospitable to others because you don't know the future, you don't know tomorrow. The person that you do good may return the same good to you tomorrow. And by the way, Sudanese are by nature, we are very religious people. It is not only that church you find in Lincoln. There are other churches even here. There is Sudanese called Sudanese Arabic Church, and there's Nuer Church. There are other churches here that sprang up. They themselves manage those things. So because of, they believe that religion should be in their lives because of what they have experienced and what they have gone through. As I've told you, most of them are victims of genocide, or victims of war, and they know how they survive is really, they should be thankful to that they survive, and therefore they're closer to God for that. So Sudanese by nature are very hospitable people.
And a lot of these families really had the burden too of helping their families who are still in refugee camps.
That's true. That's true. They cannot do that. They remit a lot of money to the refugees camp because those left behind do have greater needs just as much as those who are here. And that's one of the reasons why you find about 5 families living in one apartment, and they're trying to do whatever they can.
They're trying to send as much of the money that they make.
They work
back
hard
to their
They work
families.
hard and they remit some money to the refugees camp to help those who are there.
Okay.
And that's the problem they're facing.
We hear a lot about the Lost Boys of Sudan, and I want you to share about when we hear that name, and I know you said that there are some Lost Boys who apparently live in our area, but is that the right term for them?
No. I think history is misrepresented in the term lost boy. Let me come to it because I live in Southern Sudan. I even care for some of them. Where I was, I care for over 1,000 so-called lost boy. That's the term they use internationally. But these are young minors that were conscripted into the guerrilla movement. We demobilize them and we send a lot of them to Ethiopia to be educated in Ethiopia. So actually there are no lost boys. There are what I call ex-conscripts in the guerrilla movement. They were recruited by the leadership of the SPLA, which is a Marxist-Leninist movement at the time with the help of Mengistu in Ethiopia. These young people were taken from the bosom of their moms and dad with the impression that they were going to be educated in Ethiopia. They were taken between the ages of 5 to 8 and 8 to 12. They trekked across the country for 3 months. Some of them died, some of them capsized in the rivers, Nile, and some arrived in Ethiopia in large numbers. So what the movement was doing was to recruit these young people and try to train them according to Marxist-Leninist way in Ethiopia as well as others. So when they arrived in Ethiopia, those who were between ages of 12 and 13 were conscripted into the military. Some of them were taken to Cuba in large number. Right now we have a very large number of Sudanese in Cuba. I don't know, many people know that, but we know that. So after perestroika and glasnost, there was openness. Some of them left Cuba and went to Canada, and after they finished their studies. So a lot of them are now in Canada, but still very large number in Cuba right now as I'm talking with you. Sudanese refugees, they don't know what to do because they were taken very young. They grew up now, they become Afro-Cuban. They don't even know where Africa is at. So the term lost boys was coined by NGOs working with the U.S. State Department because there was no way of them bringing these young demobilized minors to the United States in order to be given an opportunity to live or to go to school. But I think I would retract the usage of the term lost boys because it is not right. They will call them as demobilized minors. That would have even been better, that would have even fulfilled the condition that would have allowed them to come to this country.
Some of these boys, men now are living in
They
our
are
area.
men, yes.
And what are they dealing with? Do they know where their families are? A lot of them, are they able to find their families?
I think
once they're in Nebraska, what are they going through?
Some of them have got a lot of problems socially. Some of them have a lot of problem with the law. Some of them have problem with drugs and alcohol and so forth. And there's a problem we're facing here, how we can deal with it. Some, yes, when we say they don't know where they're coming from. I met another one in the hospital the other night when I took my daughter to see the doctor in the emergency room at UMNC. He could speak the language, but not that well. And I asked him, where are you from? And he says he's from Sudan. And I say, where? He says he doesn't know. So that was another problem. There he's losing his culture from there. So what we can do, some have already can be reconnected. When I was in Sudan, in Southern Sudan, we reunited a lot of so-called lost boys or the demobilized youngsters with their relatives. And the UNHCR helped, UN organization as well as NGOs helped in doing this. And it was successful. They knew where they were coming from. But I don't know about some of them who are here now. I have not yet really, I know some of them, a large number of them, but I've never had an opportunity to try to study what are some of their problems. But I know a lot of them do have problems, particularly in Kansas and Texas, if you were to. Those are the two areas where you find the so-called the Lost Boys located.
Are you heartbroken for your country and the state that it is? I mean,
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm a professional. I came to this country first as a refugee. I study here. I came with nothing. I arrived this land as a young refugee with $50 in my pocket. I have nothing, and I have to work twice as hard as I know how. And I got 2 master's degrees in different fields, international affairs and public administration, public policy, and a doctorate. Later on, I worked as an assistant professor in some universities, and then I decided to go back and contribute in the war effort, and I did. I live in the bush, sometimes just trying to survive like any of them, because we're being bombed all the time. Antonov, Soviet-made planes, and others bombing us all the time. So one way or another, we have seen the war, and we know what it's all about, and we know what we want. But some of our leaders don't know what they want. We know what we want.
do you ever see an end in sight to the violence?
The only time I'm going to see the end to the violence in the Sudan is when Sudan is partitioned into 2. Sudan should be partitioned. That's the best way to resolve it. Partitioning doesn't mean that you're going to end all the problem, but I think you can reduce the problem. The South will have its own problem, as well as the North will have its own problem. The Northern problem already began with the issue of Darfur, because Darfur is part of the North, and the South is quite different. So the solution in Darfur doesn't necessarily mean it's the solution in the South, or the solution in the South doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the solution in Darfur. In the South, we're fighting for the exercise of right of self-determination. That is total independence from the North. We were not one. We were governed as 2 entities. But at the end of World War II, the United Kingdom unilaterally united the country and ended power to the North. Mm-hmm. So we felt we have done injustice by the British, and the British government and the British people did not even care of what they have done. They just watched off the end. That was the end of the British Empire in Sudan, and what happened to the Sudanese is none of their problem. And I can even say that the government in Sudan were receiving military assistance, military training, military equipment from the Western countries, and they were used against us, and nobody made any statement. So,
are you thankful to be in the United States, or would you rather have a country in peace and be able to live in Sudan?
I am thankful to be here because my family and I are okay, but most importantly, even though I'm here, I'm still involved in the Sudan. I wanted the South to be a country. I wanted the South to become a country. I don't want less than that. And I do not think that any settlement in Sudan that keeps Sudan as one country, North and South, is not going to work. Even this peace process is not going to work. The only way it's going to work, unless the people of the South would have to be given an opportunity to exercise the right of self-determination through a ballot box for them to decide whether they should continue to be part of Sudan or not. But I do not see the future. I do not see the end of violence in Sudan if it is divided. Similar situation like what happened in East Timor could occur in Sudan. It has already occurred, but it can reoccur in Sudan.
Well, Dr. Shand, I think we need to educate the viewers about why the fighting is actually going on in Sudan in the first place. We hear all the time in the news that it's because the Christians and the Muslims fighting. But what's at the heart of the fighting?
The heart of the fighting is politics. The heart of the fighting is economics. Heart of the fighting is economics. The South is endowed with a lot of resources. Where I come from, where you see all the Sudanese in Nebraska come from, is the richest part of Sudan. It has oil, natural gas, it has gold, it has other critical minerals. So the North, which is dry, and the South that it also is good in agriculture, plenty of water. So it's economics, it is not religion. There are Muslims in the South who are also fighting with Christians. Just as in the North, the fact that they are predominantly Muslim doesn't mean that there are no Christians. There are Christians in the South. So I do not look at the war as Islam versus Christianity. No, I look at war as a political. I'm now finishing up a book on Sudan in which I'm addressing the issue of the new Arab imperialism in Sudan and beyond. I think this war is being supported from outside. It's being supported by the Arab countries, the League of Arab States, Egypt, Libya, Saudi Arabia. They are the people sending in a lot of money with the purpose of Islamizing and Arabizing the Sudan. Currently, they have opened one of the largest universities, equal to the Azhar University in Cairo, where they train all people from Chechnya, from South Philippines to even United States, training Muslims throughout Africa in order for them to go back to their respective countries as missionaries for Islam. So they have an agenda. So that is the agenda, and that agenda became clear in 1978-79 when Ayatollah made it clear that Islam would conquer the world. So I think it's not a religion, it's political war. And it is a mixture of religion and politics. Sudan as a country, the northern part, I want you to know, you must distinguish the two. When they say Sudan is involved in terrorism, we are not involved in it. Those in the south, we are the victim of that. Terrorism affected us more than anybody else. And we have been talking to the world that, look, we are being terrorized, we are being murdered, we are being genocide. Nobody listened to us until September 11. That's when the West became aware of the problem in Sudan and the involvement of the Northern Sudanese in Taliban and in Iraq. So even all the constitution in the Arab world, Taliban, many of them were trained in the Sudan by the Sudanese government to go and do what they're doing.
We have just a couple of minutes left,
Yeah.
so I want you to share a couple of ways we as a community, the state of Nebraska, can help the refugees who live in our area.
You can help the refugees through the organization that we have established. For example, we have the Sudanese Community Development Foundation that I am heading now, and others. You could come to us and we will tell you our needs. That we don't want to become dependent, we want to become independent, we want to become self-reliant. We need a community to understand, the business community, to come to us and try to recruit and try to provide resources for retraining of those that will become competent such that they can become contributive citizens to the community where they live.
And I've heard you say we need to utilize the talent. Many
The
of
talent,
these
yes, we should
are
utilize
educated.
the talent we have, the educated. The talent is underutilized. Refugees are good for Nebraska because we have more young Sudanese growing up here. They go to school here. I think when you look at down the road, 5, 10, 15 years, if you have good economic planning, Nebraska will not be shortage of manpower.
Okay. Dr. David Shan, thank you so much for being here today, Associate
My
Professor
pleasure.
with International Studies at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And thank you for watching this edition of Consider This.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 10th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.